بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, hard to imagine or believe that the month of Ramadan is about to end. It came by the grace and blessing of Allah Azza wa Jal, and we recall the moment in which the crescent of Ramadan showed up, appeared, signaling the beginning of this sacred month. Many have passed away actually during the month that couldn't even see the last 10 nights of Ramadan. These are blessed days, sacred indeed. Allah Azza wa Jal made us taste fruits and joys that are rarely tasted in life, given to those that He loves. He gave us the opportunity, dear brothers and sisters, to taste the sweetness, the sweetest thing you can experience in life, which is nearness to Allah Azza wa Jal. There's no joy like being close to Allah Azza wa Jal. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ speaks of the greatest thing that could nurture the sweetness of Iman in the heart, and he said it's the love of Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. For you to love Allah and feel it in your heart, nothing will give you a sweetness like this, or a feeling of Iman like this. He gave us hope, nurtured the seeds of hope and joy in our hearts. We might have not had that hope before the month of Ramadan. Here we are, alhamdulillah, vigorous and hopeful, right? Thinking and trusting in the goodness of Allah Azza, feeling better about ourselves and the fact that we can come close to Allah Azza. So I'm asking you, dear brothers and sisters, on this night, one of those last nights of Ramadan, what have you learned about Allah in this month? Personally, in your relationship with Allah, as you stood up each day in prayers, as you made your du'as, as you recited the Quran, paid charity, spent time with Allah, what have you learned about Him? Indeed, Allah inshallah has taught you something about Himself, but I'm asking, what have you learned about Allah Azza wa Jal? And what does Allah want us to know the most? What does He want us to know the most? So I'm going to talk about a small experience of you spending time with Allah by yourself when you're making dua. I want to ask you, what are you thinking about when you're asking Allah to forgive you? What are you thinking about when you're asking Allah to heal you and solve your problems? How many of us have full trust in Allah when you make that dua? How many of us have trust in Allah's goodness that inshallah He'll fulfill them, but we don't know? How many of us have that fear that Allah might not even accept anything we're doing? Are you feeling any of these things? Well, I have glad tidings for you. Listen to what Allah wants you to know about Him when you're making those du'as in the month of Ramadan and beyond the month of Ramadan. When you're making steps towards Allah. Here are the words of Allah Himself. He says in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. He says to the Prophet ﷺ, tell my servants that whenever they ask you about me, people ask the Prophet ﷺ, well, how do we worship Allah? How do we please Allah? Who is Allah? They didn't know. So he says, of all things, I wanted to tell them the following. That if they ask you about me, I am near them. He didn't, in fact, the interesting thing here is that he didn't say I'm just near everybody. I am near each of them. Each person is dear to me. Each person has a relationship with me. I know you by name. And I am near you. I am near you. I know about your pains. I know about your sorrows. I know about your problems. I know you need money. I know you have a problem in school. You need to pass the exam. I know you have a problem with your mother. I know about it. I know you're feeling miserable tonight. You have a problem with your wife. I know about these things. I know them better than you. And guess what? أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. Not only I know you by name, even though I have billions of creation. Billions of creation. If somebody is the head of a country, you don't expect him to know every individual in the country, do you? Even if you pass by him and get to know him, he'll forget about your name 2 days later. Not Allah. You're always known to Allah. Your name is known to Allah. You're unique to Allah Azza wa Jal, and He values your relationship with Him. And He's anticipating you coming to request things of Him. Can you believe this? Allah is eagerly waiting, looking forward to you making dua. That's how much He loves you. So He says, tell them that whenever they request anything of me, anything, I'll answer. Do you notice here Allah did not put any conditions on what He will answer and what He will not answer? He says anything. Brothers and sisters, are you trusting in Allah's goodness enough that when you're making dua, you know for a fact Allah will give me what's best? Allah is not going to forget about this very dua that I made. I am known to Allah. I am talking to Allah right now. As we make these du'as in Ramadan, for Allah to pardon us from the hellfire, for Him to forgive us, for Him to put us in Jannah, for Him to facilitate our affairs in life. Do you have that trust in Allah? Here He is telling you, please know that I am near you. I am going to heal you. I'm going to suffice your needs and completely answer all of your requests. Who can trust in this? And how do we know for a fact that Allah is going to answer all of our requests? Nobody else can give you this. Isn't it true? Nobody else can give you this. But how do you know? After all, we haven't seen the fulfillment of all the requests. We think. You know who's going to give you the answer? Those of us who make it to Jannah. And inshallah, all of us make it to Jannah. Ameen. Do you know that you're going to give the answer to yourself? Here is a scene, extraordinary scene from the hereafter. Listen to the words of the believers who made it to Jannah. وَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. I want you to remember this scene, dear brothers and sisters. Try to remember it for the rest of your lives. وَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. Allah says, okay, you don't believe that I'm going to fulfill everything you're asking for? I'm going to describe to you what you're going to be talking about in Jannah. وَأَقْبَلَ. So Allah describes to us the scene. He says, all of the believers in Jannah will come towards each other. Like you're congregating here. Allah knows about you by name. You're going to come to each other. يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. Engaging each other in inquiry. Asking questions about what? The past. You know, one of the things that people love to, they take joy in is reminiscing over the past. Isn't it true? Some memories are painful, but some memories are joyful. One of the sources of bliss in the hereafter is for you to come together and remember the past, the good times. So they'll be asking each other, the believers, they made it to Jannah, khalas, it's over. So they'll be asking each other, what do they say? They say, إِنَّا كُنَّا مِن قَبْلُ فِي أَهْلِنَا مُشْفِقِينَ. They say, do you remember the times when we were afraid on earth? Do you remember the times when we were so anxious and worried? Worried about what? Oh, Allah might not accept us. Oh, Allah's not going to answer my dua. Oh, we're not doing enough for Allah. Allah deserves more. I might not make it. I might not be pardoned by Allah. I'm so afraid. They're saying to each other, remember the times when you were so afraid? When we were so afraid amongst our families? Fearful? Anxious? Then they say, فَمَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا وَوَقَانَا عَذَابَ السَّمُومِ. Here we are, we made it. Now when we made our du'as on earth, we trusted in the goodness of Allah, but now we're witnessing the goodness of Allah. We see it. It's real. Allah's promise is real. Not only are we seeing that He fulfilled all of our hopes, the hopes we had on earth, the requests we had on earth, here we are. We might have doubted on earth that He's going to fulfill them. Here we are. He put us in Jannah. He removed all of our pain, all of our grief, all of our sorrows. It's all gone. As soon as you die, dear brothers and sisters, all memories of loss, of grief are gone completely. Nothing will disturb you. And not only did they make it to Jannah, they're saying now, not only Allah is fulfilling all the requests we made on earth. Oh Allah, solve my problems. Oh Allah, put me in Jannah. Oh Allah, guide my children. No, not only that. He overwhelmed us with His generosity. Now we really see how good Allah really is. See, here we know Allah is good. We trust in that. But you don't even know. You know when you will know how good Allah really is? When you meet Allah. Here on earth, when we hear of somebody being generous and they give us gifts here and there, you know that you love them. You think they're really good people. How about if you're their children? You really know that they're far better than what you thought. Right? This is a small analogy, dear brothers and sisters, and there's no comparison. When you meet Allah and you're in His Jannah, He will overwhelm you beyond your imagination. The goodness of Allah cannot be comprehended. But the people of Jannah will really see it for real there. And say, subhanallah, I remember now when I made dua to Allah, oh my goodness, He delayed it because it was the best thing for me. I might have asked for money, but He delayed it for you, dear brothers and sisters, not because He's neglecting your request or forgetting about it. He delayed it or didn't give it to you because it would have harmed you. It would have harmed you. He not only fulfills the request, He gives you what's best for you. How do we trust, or whether we trust Allah is something in the heart, dear brothers and sisters. But one day the believers will see how good Allah really is. They don't stop talking. What else do they say? إِنَّا كُنَّا مِن قَبْلُ نَدْعُوهُ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْبَرُّ الرَّحِيمُ. Of all things that they've done here on earth, you know, they've done all kinds of ibadah, all kinds of good things. What is the thing they remember the most? What do you think? The special times they made dua to Allah. You know when you broke down and had tears coming out of your eyes? You know, really pleaded with Allah Azza wa Jal? Right? Do you remember those times? Maybe in Ramadan you have more of them. Right? They're going to remember these times more than anything else. They say, do you remember the times when we really pleaded with Allah, made dua? They then realize that these supplications and these special moments said with Allah were the reason they're in Jannah. Why? Because Allah is going to present Jannah as the fulfillment of all of your requests. He wants you to be happy. So they now see that the supplications and the dua were the reason they're in Jannah. إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْبَرُّ الرَّحِيمُ. Indeed, He is the most gracious, the most good. No one like Him. No one like Him, dear brothers and sisters. On earth, when you make a request, when you hope for something, doesn't it seem always far? People are always thinking of even retirement, the home in the future marriage, the future righteous children. And whenever you get close to fulfilling your dreams, what happens to them? They run away. Isn't it true? Isn't it true? And even when you get what you want, it seems to be deficient. The things you hope for and the accomplishment of your dreams always seems to be far. But guess what Allah tells us in the hereafter? What happens? وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. Your dreams on earth might have been far. Even when you make request of Allah, it seems to be far. He says, not only will I fulfill your dreams and hopes in the hereafter, I'll bring Jannah to you. What is Jannah? Jannah is the fulfillment and the embodiment of all joys. In fact, joy will run after you. You know, here we're running after joy. In Jannah, joy will come after you. It doesn't leave you alone. You can never say, I'm bored. Joy will overwhelm you. Not only this, do you remember when we said before, here on earth, when you wish for something, it's always far, as I said. In Jannah, you say, Subhanaka Allahumma, what happens? It comes to you. Remember when we spoke of the bird, you see the bird, you wish to eat the bird, what do you say? Subhanaka Allahumma, bam, it's in front of your eyes. You feel like, say Brother Nasir, you want to see him. You feel like spending time with him. You think about him, you say Subhanaka Allahumma, he pops in front of you. What's better than that, dear brothers and sisters? Allah will not only fulfill your hopes, but instantly, وَلَدَيْنَا مَزِيدٌ, and we have far more exceeding your imagination. وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ بَعِيدٌ. How far is that, dear brothers? It's very close. Death is what separates us from this. So I'm asking you, dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, I'll conclude, how do you pray to Allah in these moments? Here's what the verse tells us. You're going to remember these times. You're going to remember the times when you pray to Allah here. You're going to remember this month of Ramadan. You're going to remember the du'as that you're making now, and if you're having any doubts about them, over there, you're going to be saying, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Every dua I made is fulfilled. And beyond my imagination, continue to make du'as, dear brothers and sisters. Continue to make dua for the pardon of Allah. There's still a few days left for Jannah. But rest assured, dear brothers and sisters, life is not over until it's over. Ramadan ends, but Allah doesn't leave. We made commitments with Allah. We don't leave Allah. After we tasted the joys, you don't stop on Sunday and say it's over, Eid is here and we made it. No, we have not made it yet. Dear brothers and sisters, Al-Hasan al-Basri said there is no rest until you put your foot in Jannah. No time for rest until you go to the grave. That's the commitment we make. But dear brothers and sisters, you will remember these times inshaAllah. With joy indeed, continue to make dua to Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم. May Allah accept all of our du'as. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. جزاكم الله خيرا.